Hi everyone, I am Daksha, and today with us we have Subramaniam, who is the CEO of Verzio. So, Subramaniam, my first question to you would be: at the very young age of 16, you founded the American Society of Mechanical Engineers in your college, MIT Manipal. How did you come across this organization at such a young age? And with what mindset did you set it up?
Right. So I was in the first year of college, if I'm not wrong, when I was participating. There's a tech test called Tech Tattva. So I was worked with Fuel RC, something into the mechanical stream, which a lot of pursues a volunteer firm. Then I realized we have been trying to do something in a hardcore mechanical because it was very fascinating to me start in mechanical aspect when I finished my plus two. That's where it was very motivated to enter into maybe Formula or PMR or whatever, maybe mechanical line. But then eventually I realized that automobile is not my core area of interest because a lot of people says mechanical is something in the automobile related more. Then I realized it's not the core to be happen. Then I thought of like why can't we have an operation where which can represent internationally. We do also have a lot of clubs in the Manipal, in fact, like I mechanical, a lot of specific to the core of the things are there. But then I realized why can't we do international representation or college or we started this club in the first year of college. Then it was pretty well running in the second year and third year. I learned a lot of management skills out there.
So it really helped you in eliminating at least what you were not interested in.
Yes, definitely.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, you have such a brilliant resume, like where you work on so many different domains. Why did you decide to finally drop out of college? Like, that was a very strong move. How did you come across this decision?
In fact, it's a college dropping. It's not the main thing which was decided. I mean, so when I was working in second year for the organization for ASME, that was very much packed with my schedule with the colleges. I mean, study curriculum along with that managing the organization, and I was pretty young. First year I was studying on second year, and people third years they used to do that. So at the same time I started my other company called TransTele. It's called Trans India Teleconnect. So what we do is in that is connect rural areas specifically with what we say more access point penetrations. So then that was the idea which I got into it, and I really don't know any idea about how the what we say the electronic gadgets works on it. Then we had we associated with Blue Town. It's based out of Spain, and then I reached out to them, and that was done by ex Nokia CEO. So we started working together, and their presence is not in India. So we started developing a product scale for Indian mechanism. Then second year time I started working on it part time. I never thought it's going to be that serious level business to be started. Then third year we raised some fund, which was pretty good fund we raised through senior. We got raised fund around maybe 500k check that point of time.
Okay.
I mean, $500k check, and it was too much heavy for me. Third year, I'm having 4-5 crores of money in our bank, and it really passionate to me. Then I started working on it more deeper. Then then I really then I was working on with a very hardcore technology background students. I mean, then I thought I need a break for a while. Then I took exactly 2-3 months break after third year. I mean, before the semester happened, but then eventually my investors start pressurizing me for my targets of company growth. Then I couldn't. I thought 6 months break I'll take and I'll come back, but it never happened. I hope I'll come back in future and do that again.
Okay, that was a really interesting story behind all of this happening. Okay, so like the startup TransTele that you were talking about, so that was basically to provide cheap internet access into basically the rural areas of India. Okay.
Yes.
So was there any incident that made you start up this startup, or why did you decide to sell it off eventually?
Sure. So that point of time, Zio was not there in the market yet. Not only Zio, there's the data cost is completely 250 to 300 bucks per GB. That I hope you guys also been there that point of time where the cost is pretty high. So then what we decided it's a basic fundamental principle we worked on it. So in 15 years back, Head and Shoulders or the shampoo packets. Shampoo dabbas came, but it was not very good market for them. Then shampoo companies or detergents started like a Sanchez, 1 rupee, 2 rupees per mod. So then I realized the sales has increased when they reduced to ₹1 packet rather than as a selling like a full packet or full dabba. Then we realized we had taken that as a case study. Why can't we start selling 200 MB, 300 MB rather than selling 160 or 50 MB? This for 10 rupees or 20 rupees or 30 rupees. People might not want 1 GB at that point of time because people go back to house internet. Landline internet is definitely cheaper compared to mobile recharge, even that point of time. So they need just 100 MB maybe to service it. Then what we did is we created multiple hotspots, and we didn't made very cheaper also. Market is 250, I was doing for 150 or not more than that. But what we did is selling only 50 MB, 30 MB, 100 MB. So that was a huge hit in the other cities, other towns. Even in Manipal side, we did in Kudraimukh, Udupi. A lot of towers we did, and a lot of auto drivers. Basically, they don't have a time for to watch 1 GB continuously that point of time. So what they need is just the auto drivers just need this browsing Facebook or WhatsApp. They don't need 1 GB and they cannot afford to pay 250. We used to provide only 100 MB. Specific people will use only Facebook and WhatsApp. That's it. So the paying capacity of a person is reduced. That's how we started off, and that was very huge. Then we started penetrated to more than 300 villages we did, and we did more than millions of data we saved, and we used for the consumption. But then eventually, why I sold, I'll definitely say that. So competition came up to be very tough because whatever price I'm selling it, the price is coming to be cheaper at that point your time. Completely, people cannot survive. In fact, I cannot survive. I cannot fight with the big players for sure. Then I put it for acquisition, and I really don't know that. I thought it's completely going to waste because we're out of money and we're sitting at 2 million of monthly burn, $2 million USD monthly burn. It's a huge, and I was still in third year. Where will I give that kind of money, my salaries to my employees and all? So then then I got an acquisition offer from a networking company based out of Switzerland and Spain. When I was in guest MNC, they offered to take my patent for royalty. So existing infrastructure was being acquired by existing telecom player. So then once the acquisition happened, then I got enough crunch of money though. So definitely. So that's how it happened. So I decided mainly for sure is market is I cannot fight the market share. And second important thing is we've seen that market penetration required much more than what we did. We need a lot of capital to be infused. Then we don't have option unless we need to sell the patent licenses to the players who have been in this industry. So one player had taken my patent license, one player has taken my services. So still I'm a part of this board, but I get royalty on yearly once on the patent product what we have. So that's how it works.
So yeah, that's a very different and an amazing way you guys researched upon shampoos, and then you came up to, you concluded something on the Wi-Fi. It's amazing. So kudos to all the success that Versio has achieved in the last 2 years. Versio, as we know, is an AI-based edutech startup in Bangalore. How did this idea come up, and what were your first steps and goals in mind when you were deciding to found this startup?
Right. So it's always passionate for me to teach to the students because my dad is a teacher. So it always passionate for me to teach to people. Then I started teaching in the first year of engineering. I used to teach to the kids of +1, +2 and kids of 8, 9 standards. And then I used to have multiple startups fail though. People just talk about the startup which made money though, but a lot of startups even we failed a lot. More than 15 to 16 startups I failed. Then I did 3D printing manufacturing unit. Then I worked with medical field. So I used to teach 3D printing classes to a lot of students. Then they used to pay me 500 rupees for 2 days workshop, one guy. It's like 300 rupees or something. So there are 100 students, I made 30K that point of when I was in first year and second year. Just for 1 day, if they're paying me 30K, it's more fascinating. And I started teaching to the kids. That was never my thought of I go that aggressive. Then again, even second years and third years, I started teaching, but not much way of teaching. I used to do hardcore technology. Then I realized I got exit and I have enough crunch of money in my pockets. I thought, why can't I take this part-time as a full-time journey?
Okay.
Then I never know that that's going to be a huge hit in the market share. But eventually we started with 10 students. Then we are doing millions of people has been get trained, paid consumers we have, thousands of people, paid customers we have. So that's how we started with. And a part of that, I used to have very hardcore belief in the rural area, where a tech space is going to be a boom in the rural area, which where vernacular language is the major issue is going to happen.
Okay.
Then we started testing with the courses with vernacular languages. Then I seen that where rural market is much more need adoption. That's how we started into Vezjo, and we have pretty good journey we do have, but we also seen ups and downs, but it's part of the journey.
Okay. Yeah, that's really nice. Started with teaching in small groups, and now it's a full-time job. So that's something really nice.
Yeah.
So that teaches us that we should definitely give our passion a chance of making it a full-time job. That's how things work out better.
Yeah, that's what. Even after EdTech, this Vezjo has been started. Most of I used to fund a lot of startups, though. I incubate startups because I believe that early stage startups are more viable in the market. So most of my journey also right now, the incubation or whatever happens, we fund EdTech space. Recently also we funded this is firm called Small, and recently they're doing pretty good. So other firm called EduWord. So my food area right now is completely EdTech. Before I used to do complete different spaces, but now I'm completely into education space, teaching space.
Okay. Would you like to talk about some of the initiatives that Verzio has been currently taking?
Yes, sure. So Vezjo has been taking multiple initiatives towards maybe social responsibility wise, and towards the growth of the Vezjo sector in multi-growth. So last year we didn't see much growth rate because of organizational structure. I mean, not last year, was the year when we started, because it was completely informal happened. Then we started onboarding people from the industry who can help me, definitely, because I'm not very professionally managed way into that. So then Vezjo has taken, I mean, in fact, we has taken a call where Vezjo need to be maintained on regular standard of curriculum, and Vezjo need to maintain the standard of curriculum to the rural areas. That's with our ticket price. We never go beyond $100. It can be any country, even US or Africa or Pakistan, China. We never made it price. We made it very price sensitive in any country. We want people to learn more passionately. Definitely the price also what we're charging to survive the whole company itself. So we cannot do completely free. It cannot be as NGO. So that kind of work has been initiated. But along with that, we do a lot of free classes to the kids who are under poverty line, and we do regular classes on quarterly twice or twice in once in 2 months, something like that we do. That's how the initiatives. But in terms of growth of Vezjo, definitely we have been scaling up very fast. So that's how we are working on it.
Okay, where do you see Verzio in the next 5 years? Are there any initiatives planned up which you would like to share with us?
So we are looking out to be expansion in multiple countries. Right now, Vezjo has a hardcore only in Indian space. We have a presence though, but we don't really see that kind of what we say customer traction or customer acquisition happening in other countries. Now we're doing in Malaysia as a full time right now, and US, and so we are planning to be a very aggressive. More than 50 countries we want to be present. Not 5 years, maybe 3 years down the line. We're looking at that, and in terms of ARR, annual revenue, we're looking at 100 million checkout month ARR. Then definitely maybe so if things goes well, we can do unicorn space in EdTech, because in EdTech space between to K12 to K16, that means about 12 and below 16, except a few competitors are there, like Internshala or Intern Theory. There are a lot of platforms out there, but in terms of revenues, in terms of that, we're already it's the max. We are at almost 1-2 years old company is 2 times of my second leader doing it. So my top leader is doing some X, we are doing almost 2x of their revenue. So we're already market leaders in that space. Now we are looking at another spaces in coding for kids and professional certifications of all. That's how we're looking at. Maybe soon we might see a ARR with 100 million things and growth of employing maybe 2,000 people altogether. That's what is the goal of the
All the best to all your future endeavors. So there was an article in Uni India which states that there are around 7,000 plus students enrolled in offline courses. Where and how are these offline courses conducted?
that time we used to conduct offline courses. That time we don't have online at all.
Okay.
We transformed ourselves into online last year. So before, what we used to do is we used to conduct boot camps. So like IITs, NITs, we conduct like 15 days of boot camp or 7 days of boot camp where people can come to that place where we send the trainers. It's like a training program. So 6 days they'll have full-time training. Last day they'll have exam. So that's how we conducted, and we did a multiple batches, not 7,000. In fact, we did more than 15,000 students. We trained offline, paid and non-paid also. Now we are onboarded completely into online transition.
Okay.
So now we transform it. Now we do only on special request we do offline, because offline becomes tedious operation, very heavy, and the knowledge transfer what's happening through offline and online, it's been the same. Maybe 20% daily we are saying. That's why we transformed ourselves into completely online in the last year of training, and we maybe only summers and winters we host offline. This time summer also we are hosting it, but unfortunately due to COVID we are not hosting anymore. So that's how we operate.
Okay, that's really nice. Any piece of advice that you would like to give to young budding entrepreneurs?
I'm not that great to give advice though. I'm also still striving myself. I need to get mentorship from other people though. So nothing that I would suggest specifically to them, any suggestions to be there. But I would say that, take a chance to get into bigger things. That's what we can say. Nothing more than that, because people do whatever they want to do, but it's right time maybe at this point, because economy is reversal we are seeing. They can try whatever they want to try at this point at least. So they can make it beautiful products if they come out, because now we're going to see the product scale. Companies are going to see huge hit in the revenue cycle after this COVID happens. So I would suggest you guys to focus on the completely how is your product channel is going to pipeline, how is your market channel going to happen. So it's better to be take a futuristic projection I do, because a lot of startups has been started before COVID, collapsing right now because prediction is very difficult what's going to happen, and that's what we are in EdTech. That was not seeing much effect at all during this point of time also. So I hope that's what I suggest to the entrepreneurs who want to be in that.
Thank you so much, Subramaniam. So do you plan to take Versio sometime globally?
Yeah, that's what definitely I'm like to take it, and we are already doing it. Yeah, Malaysia and US, we're already doing it, and we're taking to multiple countries presence, and we have seen good results from other countries too, and I hope definitely we're going to see in more than 50 countries our presence soon.
So thank you so much, Subramaniam. That was a really informative talk session that we had. I came to know so much about you and all your journey throughout, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's going to hear this interview is also going to learn a lot, and definitely is going to take a chance on their passion, and which will probably help them ace their dreams as well.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.